So this is my first video for Ancestream, and I guess I'm kind of excited, really, because really there are so many things in my family that have been left unsaid or misunderstood, or I don't know. The way life is, it just seems like there's not the time in the day to really often have the heart-to-hearts needed. And at least in my life, a certain amount of spiraling out of control in moments to it's hard to repair the connections that were hurt. So so my first video, even although there are many things that I could want to tell about, this one is for my son Lenin, who in this moment doesn't want to talk to me. And would prefer that he never heard from me again, I guess. I can understand, I wasn't by any means the perfect dad. And I made a lot of decisions that I thought were the best for us, for our family. And, I can see that they really hurt Lena more than they hurt maybe anybody else. And so my hope is that I'll put this in my Ancestream file, and some year after I'm dead, you'll watch this, Leonid, and I hope you can find some peace in your heart and some understanding, so that you go on to be a better father than I was. I really tried my best for you, buddy. I was young and also full of ideals and thinking that I could change the world, and also coming from a background of real domestic violence, real verbal abuse, and strong physical violence. When I was your age, I didn't want to talk to my dad either, for the pain that I felt, the betrayal in some way. So I carried that, and I hope that you won't have to carry it, because it ate me up inside for a long time and consumed me in some kind of rage, anger that didn't serve me in any way, and it's certainly not going to serve you, pal. So I had the tendency to put my dad on a pedestal. Maybe everybody does. And it isn't until you're older that you can have the perspective of them just as a human, just as they are, just as a person, just misguided and, misshapen, given carrying my own weight, trying to free myself from whatever baggage, I guess you'd call it. It's hard to define it in some way, I guess, but what really changed for me was I'm going to tell you this story of my Italian grandfather. And we didn't know him very well. I knew him, but in a sort of, he's my grandfather way, but we never spent a lot of time near each other alone. Usually if there was a family gathering, it was everybody. It was all the cousins and tons of people. And it was fun. It was a great time. Very amazing food. Wow. A bunch of Italians. Wow, man. So, but never, one-on-one really. And one time, I can't recall why, but my grandfather was older, and probably 80, 81. I think he knew he was going to pass away soon, and maybe he came to see my father one last time to try and, they had their own injuries, for sure, because your great-grandfather sent your grandfather away to live in California when his mom died. My dad's mother died when he was very young. And my grandfather married his former wife's sister, which I think was a really common thing back then. So my dad went to live in California with my uncles and my Aunt Rosie and Uncle Tom and Uncle Phil. And they were great. As I know, they treated him very well, but there was still a lot of injury. And so anyway, one day I'm talking with my grandfather, and I want to get to know him. I really felt like, even though I was maybe 19 or 20, 21 at the most, I really had it in my head that, this is like my only chance to really get to know my grandfather, and that he'd probably be passing away soon. So unlike me in that moment, I was very attentive and very interested in really learning from him and learning about our family. And so we talked for several hours out in the backyard at my parents' house on 50 South Brooklyn Avenue in Wallsville. We had a big yard, a lot of apple trees. It was lovely. My mom and my dad did such a beautiful job growing that garden. And it was the happiest years of their life, no doubt. Un momento, ¿no? As I'm sitting here recording this, both of my parents passed away this last year. You know how it is. Or you don't yet, but you will. So, normally I'm not like this. Not normally so sentimental, but this is why we're here. This is why I'm paying thousands of dollars to save all of these videos and recordings and everything that you might get to know us, lean in better, and your children, I hope, one day. So, sorry for the intermission, but it's a big deal for me, and I'm so joyful to have the opportunity to really just say what I would love to be able to say to you in person. Would never be able to, because you'd probably walked away 10 times by now. You won't even come here to walk away. So there I am talking to my grandfather, and I'm having a really nice time with him, really lovely, and get to see a really kind side of him that I'd never seen before, because my childhood was overshadowed by my Aunt B, who I was terrified of, because she had this a thing that she'd do with her eye when she got mad, or she'd go, and as a kid, I'd look at her, I'd just get so freaked out. I thought she had like some sort of demon in her. I think she did, in a figure of speech kind of way. So then my grandfather tells me this story that really has fundamentally changed it did change my relationship with my father, and I grew to love him so much and to appreciate him so much for everything that he'd done for me in my life. And everything he personally had overcome. It was, he was a hell of a guy. To save those for some other stories. So, yeah. So your grandfather he was talking to me, and he said, "Oh, he's laughing. We're having a good time." He said, "Oh, I asked him, what was your father like? Where did you live? What did you do? What did your dad do for a living? Where did he work? What did he like to do?" And I was asking questions that from my viewpoint, not from their viewpoint, because of course their viewpoint was first generation Italian immigrants into the United States, dealing with a very strong pressure to assimilate, to change our last name from Celia to Seglia, because some white people liked the sound of it better. But of course we were just like, the Irish, right? The Italians were always, they weren't, I don't know what Italians think, but in 2022 in the United States at least, they're not considered white, but for some reason they don't seem to be included as people of color. But for sure, in those times, my great-grandfather, he was your great-great-grandfather. He was leaving Italy for a new life, and took the boat to New York, to Ellis Island, and, believed, and did. In those years, absolutely, the American dream was a real thing. And he could escape the classism of Italy, and come here and make a good living and own his own property and all the things he probably couldn't in those years have achieved in his own country, or at least that level of prosperity. So you have to imagine what that pressure to assimilate was like, especially as a young boy, my grandfather, wanting to fit in, wanting to be part of the culture. Well, the rule in the family house was that only Italian could be spoken at the dinner table. No English. And in my attempt to really offer compassion to all of the injury that has come before, not just my own, and I hope that you offer yourself love and compassion for whatever it is that hurts you and hurts your heart, because I've found it to be just an indispensable tool that has allowed me to forgive myself and to forgive my father and to forgive my grandfather and even to forgive my great-grandfather, who I never even knew. But I knew in this story that my grandfather asks at the dinner table, they're all sitting around, they're having pasta and some bread, of course. And my grandfather asks for the bread in English, beg your pardon. And while there's the rule that you only speak Italian at the dinner table. And my great-grandfather punched him, full force punch, off his chair. He falls backwards like this onto the ground. And their floor is just cement, right? Because they're living, I mean, not poorly, but basic, like the way places were back then. No fine finish tile or marble on the floors and no wood. Those were luxuries, right? And people didn't spend money frivolously, which isn't a bad philosophy. So he falls backwards, cracks his head open, literally. Blood coming out of the back of his head like a pool of blood on the ground. Now one would think that if there was any heart that existed inside the body of my great-grandfather, he would snap out of whatever fearful place that he had found himself and come rushing to the aid of my grandfather. But no, because he's just that callous of a man, just that desensitized, that he stood up and he put his foot on the neck of my grandfather. Now, remember, my grandfather's telling me this story in the beautiful backyard of his son, my dad. And while he's telling me the story, he's laughing. He's laughing about it. I don't know. I still don't understand that. But I don't know. Maybe we all get nostalgic for the good old days, even if the good old days are not so great, So, yeah. So, no, he just gets up, puts his foot with his boot on the neck, and he says, well, I don't really know what the Italian is off the top of my head, but Google, help me out. Perdón, un minuto. I'm probably going to massacre this, but la prossima volta ce lo fari ti uccidero, which is, the next time you do that, I will kill you. But of course he said it in Italian, because to him, preserving, well, I think he believed it was like connecting to family, you know. I think he thought, to switch your language in the house, it's to betray your family in some way, because how else could you even imagine having such a strong reaction? But in that moment I realized it was like a visual, because oftentimes in my life I think not in words, but I visualize. I have little, I don't know, movies of some sort that come to me, and I understand things. And in that moment, I just saw us all. Really, you know, even though this is a microphone, like this with the baton. And we pass it generation to generation. And we hope, at least most of us hope, that each generation will do just that much better than we did. And in that moment I saw my dad and I saw my grandfather, and I realized each of them really had done better. And even though my father was just horribly verbally abusive, I realized, yeah, well, that's how he was treated too, and he was incredibly physically violent to me, and that's how I was treated as well. Why did it stop with me? Well, maybe you, Alina, maybe you don't think it did stop with me, but you know, I never hit you in your entire life. I don't think maybe I should have. Well, I guess I don't really think I should have. I think I should have given you more responsibility earlier in some ways. I don't know. You'll have your own opinions. They will infinitely matter more than mine. But you know, besides maybe once in a while you and your brother would be tearing the faces off each other, hitting each other, and I would come in and give you both a good shove to pull you apart from each other. But my dad would stand over me telling me I was a worthless piece of shit while punching me, not spanking me, punching, full punches. He'd take that leather belt out and brutalize me, man. Certainly built my resistance, and in some ways I'm thankful, because of what else happened in my life. I had a certain inner strength that I had built as a resistance to assholes, as I thought of them then, and it served me well in my life. But I wouldn't wish it on anyone, and I wouldn't wish it on you, and I certainly wouldn't wish it on your children. But there I was, with this beautiful visual of my grandfather passing the baton to my father, who passed it to me. And I pass it to you, son. May you treat your own children in every way that you despised the way that I treated you. And you know, just
just know I did my best. Running my lap, trying to continue the trend in our family, which is that each generation manages to figure out a little bit more about how to treat each other, how to grow, how to be there for each other, how to offer each other support and encouragement, and how to protect each other. I don't know. But someday, please, leave this same message in our Ancestream for your child. And may one day we bless our further and future generations with the ability to see us. I miss you so much. I think about you every day, son. And I'm so proud of you. And I think you are so amazing and such an incredible person. So tender in your heart. And I hope you believe in some form of God or intelligence in the universe. And from my own experience, I have been blessed more times than certainly I deserved. And I hope the same for you, son. I love you.